Steve, how are you? I get the feeling you were a bit late this evening.
A wizard, Mark, is never late. A wizard arrives precisely.
Just shows you how wrong that saying is.
When
then
he should. There you go.
So you got a late tea, did you?
Got a
late dinner.
Late dinner, mate. Yeah, it's been a bit stuff going on, so it was a little bit rushed. But otherwise, mate, better late than never. That's what I say.
But was the meal memorable?
Not as memorable as some.
Ah, that's an interesting topic then.
Oh, do tell.
What was the best meal that you ever had? And of course, we can't include family because you may upset them.
Yeah.
And where was it? And it may be more than one. I guess, Steve, you'll need a long run-up. You can go first. Off you go.
A long run-up. I don't ever need a long run-up, mate. I've always...
I will.
A short plank, and I'm there. Short plank, mate, straight into the Oggins, straight into the depths of it all. So one of the best meals that I've ever had, and I've always recalled this, was when I was in the Royal Navy. And it wasn't in or on a ship, that's for sure. It was in Sri Lanka.
Oh, right.
On the
Charybdis?
On the Cherry B. Do you remember when we went into Sri Lanka, into Colombo?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So there was me and a group of the fellas. You weren't there. I think you were on watch, actually, or you were doing something else, or you didn't want to be involved. We went to one of the hotels, and there was a big festival going on with all the elephants going past and all of that sort of thing.
Yes.
And we stayed for a couple of days in the hotel. And we had these 5 different curries. 5 different curries that were brought out on the same plate.
What? Must have been a big plate then.
Yeah. It was just a nice round plate and just a nice dollop of curry. 5 different curries just sort of spiraled around the plate. And it was absolutely amazing. Just amazing curry. And every one was different.
Can you remember the colours of them?
Completely different. No, I can't. I can't remember the colours. I couldn't tell you what they were, other than they were curry. And maybe because of the fact that I was only a youngster and that I was in Sri Lanka, and I found Sri Lanka beautiful, and I found the people really lovely there. And the festival and the atmosphere, maybe that sort of fed into the whole curry thing. But I just cannot forget these beautiful curries and just the flavours, the real delicate heat.
Delicate heat.
If there is such a thing. A delicate heat. So delicate flavours, but undergirded by some big off heat.
Yeah, lots of depth. Provocative.
Yeah.
Did you go to Sri Lanka before I joined? Because you went out the Gulf the year before I joined. Did you go to Sri Lanka?
So the year before, so we didn't go that year.
Right, so it's when I was on board.
No, so that was so this was when you were on board. So that was in 84. So in 84 was a crap deployment, mate. That was naff. By comparison to 85. 85 was a much better deployment.
Because I remember Sri Lanka and a plate. It was like a brass plate, and it had been divided into 5 or 6. So I don't know if we were the same thing. Because I remember one of them was white with black flecks. I've never seen anything like it.
Oh, no, there was definitely some black stuff in it.
Yeah, and it was so hot. It was surprising. You thought it was coconut in there or cream. Oh my, this thing stung, it was worse coming out, but it stung going in.
It was most definitely worse the next day.
Oh.
Definitely.
So we may have been at the same thing.
Yeah, maybe we were. How very odd, Mark. I'm surprised you weren't there in the photographs.
I was probably taking them, Steve.
Oh, that would be it. Yeah, that would be it.
So generally, then you like curries. Is that why? Is it because of the
I love curries. Yeah, I really love curries. I've always liked food with a little bit of spice, a little bit of a kick into it. But this was just a beautiful curry. It's absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
I think one of the only other sort of real memory. I'm not a foodie, so not being a foodie doesn't help. As you can probably tell, well, as you know, that it's like, yeah, that's good, that'll do me. But I'm not a foodie. One of the other really nice, memorable meals I had was at in Palm Springs when I was out there, and
California.
We went to this is when Ronnie and I were away together, and we went to a steakhouse. And man, this was a beautiful steak. It was like a fillet steak, and you could literally cut it with your fork. You know, you didn't need a knife for it. You could just run your fork down it, and the meat would pull apart.
Yeah,
that was a very nice steak. So that was good.
You could fork it.
Called Ruth's or something like that. The place.
I've been to Palm Springs, but we never went. I don't remember eating there. We took a day trip out from Los Angeles, and I didn't realise you were going across so much desert. I know that the desert was there. When we got to Palm Springs, no, it was the other way around. We got to San Jacinto first. No, let me get it right. We went to Palm Springs, got out the car, and we had to walk about 20 feet to the mall and getting out the air conditioning car and then into the heat nearly killed us. And we got into the air conditioning, and as soon as you go through the door, you got that downdraft on the back, and your sweat freezes as you went into the hall. Then we went to San Jacinto, and because they said, oh, if you're suffering from the heat, just go up there, and you got this funicular, and it drops 30 degrees. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's quite nice along there. I really enjoyed that part of Palm Springs, and I stayed at a place called La Quinta, which was really nice. Really nice place.
Oh, so, interesting.
Anyway, so that's a couple of mine. You know, a beautiful steak on the west coast of the United States, and an incredible selection of curries in Sri Lanka.
And do you remember anything about Italy? Because you was out there for a while.
Yeah, I mean, Italy was great food all the time, but sort of memorable dishes, particular dishes at a particular time. Those would be two of them that sort of spring to mind, I guess. What about you?
Interesting. Well, yeah, I was just going to say it was an interesting thing to consider. That is a meal memorable because you've had days before of not having memorable food? Does that? Because if you're having food all the time that's memorable, it tends not to stick out, does it?
I reckon that food is most memorable when it's the company that you're in.
Ah, right. Yes,
that's what I think. I think it's the whole event. I don't think it's just the food. I think it's the whole event.
Yeah.
You know, I've got no doubt that I've eaten some very wonderful food, but the company's been crap, and I couldn't tell you what the food is.
Right. Although that in itself could be memorable because the food is terrible, and so's the people you're with.
Yeah, I guess so. Fortunately, Mark, I only hang out with good people.
Oh, that's good then. Okay. Apart from that brief period in the mid-'80s.
Hung out with some of the best then, mate. Some of the best.
Well, my meal was... I did say I need a long run-up here. I can't ever give a short story, Steve, so beware. My wife and I went to Italy with her parents, and she was pregnant with our first child. So this would have been 92. And we drove down into Italy, and we did all the travel around there. When we came back... we took an unusual route, one that I'd never been before, and Joe's parents often drove through France, and they said, let's go this way, and we went to Beaune. And I think it was because Joe's dad had read about the hospital there, the medieval building, and when you see it, it's magnificent. It's absolutely beautiful. It's almost Tudor, but different colours, and it's like an old hospital. Fantastic, and it's in beautiful countryside. And Beaune has this charmed little city centre where it's almost as though someone's going to do a pastiche of a French little town with the cafes and the cobbled streets. That's it. And we said, look, let's go and get some lunch, and we're not planned anywhere. And it was Joe's dad, who obviously had an eye for such things, said, well, let's go over here. And it was almost like Channel night. It would have been the last but one night before we got to the Channel. So it's our opportunity to have a final meal together. And looking back, I wouldn't be surprised if Joe's dad wanted to treat her because she was about to have his first grandchild. So we sat down in this cafe, and it was nothing special. It was, in fact, if I remember, it had those checkered, almost plasticated covers, red and white checkered things. Yep. It was almost like a pastiche. Enough for 4 people to sit round. And the first thing that came out was a little soup, and then it was followed by a sorbet, and then carrots and all. It was that kind of meal. Oh, it was almost like, towards the end, taking the piss, because every bit of the meal was superb. And he kept coming. And looking back, I couldn't have expressed it in the language I'll use now, but I think it was based on the idea of you get a little bit sweet, a bit of sour, a bit of bitter, a bit of salt, and a bit of, well, no one knew umami back then, but it was just beautifully balanced, really lovely presented. And you look around and you think, oh, the kitchen couldn't have been special. It was the equivalent of just by 2 steps up from a Greasy Spoon cafe. And it was the most beautiful, most tasty meal I've ever had. Just wonderful. You gave 2, so I'm going to give a second one. And this might surprise you. So a couple of weeks ago, I went with my wife on vacation, on holiday to the South Island. And it's the first time we've managed to get away together for 30 years. And we ended up in a little place called Cromwell, which I'd never been to before. And, you know, it's really delightful. There's a little oldie area next to what is now a lake, isn't it?
Yep. And
when we left, we asked the woman, said, well, where would you recommend us to go for breakfast? And she said, oh, go to this, she said the names, I think it was Nichols, which is a garden centre. I thought that's unusual, but we went. Oh, this breakfast, my. Joe had some kind of compote with granola, and it came out as though it was like a 5-star restaurant. And I had mushrooms, and I've never had mushrooms done anything like this before. In fact, I took a photograph of it. It was just unbelievable. Huge portions, very tasty, beautifully presented. And I thought, of all the places, you would never have thought of going there. And that was probably the second most beautiful meal I've ever had. Although I stretched that out, of course, I'd include some of the meals with you over time, and the one we had recently in Christchurch. Lovely. Of
course.
Great event. And I'm not saying how many whiskey originals we had, but I think we had too many. You did.
Not me. Not me. I was absolutely perfect.
You was.
Yes.
So they're very memorable, aren't they, meals? What is it about them?
Yeah.
Why do we do them? Well, it's because we're human and it's something to talk over and get relaxed. And especially if you met somebody for the first time, but you know somebody else, they're really quite memorable things, aren't they?
No, I think they're great. And as I say, they're not just functional in terms of just putting fuel in your body. There is something really nice about having company over a dinner table, having a good feed, really just relaxing. As I say, as you said, when we caught up recently, that was just such a nice evening of just being able to hang out, just chat across the table, enjoy a drink, enjoy really nice food, nice company. That was good.
I'm sure there were people listening into our conversation because we were a bit loud.
No, we weren't. Who told you that?
The looks that we were getting. But yeah, it's a beautiful place as well. Very top quality restaurant. Yeah, great stuff.
That was good, mate. Very good.
So, good meals. Thank you for that. Nice little chat.
Nice one. You take care. I'll catch you later.
Take care, boy.
Bye-bye.